jap Ad sach Jugad sach Happy sach Nanak hosi bhi sach Main nahi kach ho nahi Kich aahe na mora Avsar lajja rakh liho Sadna jan tora Ji main nahi kach ho nahi Kich aahe na mora Avsar lajja rakh liho Sadna jan tora Vaheguru Sahib Jiyo Kabir ਧਿਆਇਓ ਏਕ ਰੰਗ ਨਾਮਦੇਵ ਹਰਿ ਜਿਉ ਬਸ ਹੈ ਸੰਗ ਰਵਿਦਾਸ ਧਿਆਏ ਪ੍ਰਭ ਅਨੂਪ ਗੁਰ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਗੋਵਿੰਦ ਰੂਪ ਰਵਿਦਾਸ ਧਿਆਏ ਪ੍ਰਭ ਅਨੂਪ ਗੁਰ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਗੋਵਿੰਦ ਰੂਪ Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Today we are going to continue the sakhi of Bhagat Namdev Ji. So yesterday we started off with the sakhi of Bhagat Namdev Ji, their family background, and also some sakhi of Bhagat Namdev Ji during their childhood as well, and how they became known to be a Bhagat of Paramatma, how they kept on reciting Beetle, Beetle, Beetle as a name for Paramatma, and they became a Bhagat. So today we are going to continue Bhagat Namdev Ji Sakhi. Now they have grown up already, and they are now a teenager. They're now in their mid-20s, going to 30 years old. And this is continuing from yesterday's Sakhi, where Bhagat Namdev Ji are going on their yatra with Sant Gyaneshwar Ji. And today, while in that yatra, Bhagat Namdev Ji, they are still in Maharashtra, and today we are going to experience that sakhi of Bhagat Namdev Ji, where the Mandir turned to face Bhagat Namdev Ji, and how they wrote about this experience in their Bani in Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So this took place in Maharashtra, and this Mandir here is called Avanda Nagnath Mandir. So this Mandir, it's about 1.5 hours drive from Takht Sri Hazur Sahib. So those who go for yatra in Hazur Sahib, there'll always be these tour buses that will bring you on yatra on all the others Gurdwara. So one of the places where the tour buses will bring you is this Mandir, where Bhagat Namdev Ji came to do bhakti, but they were kicked out. So this Mandir here is about 5,500 to about 6,000 years old Mandir. It's really old, and you can Google it. Type in the name Avanda Nagnath Mandir. It's really famous in history and all around the world for being that Mandir that completely turned up 180 degrees from front facing the back. So how is this sakhi? How did it actually take place? Bhagat Namdev Ji, they were in their yatra, still doing their yatra with all these other Bhagats, and they had that ichha of going to a Mandir and doing bhakti. And so in their travels, they actually came to this Mandir, and on that day, there were a celebration going on. So kafi jane sige Mandir de vich, and looking at Bhagat Namdev Ji, a lot of these other devotees, they, instead of listening to the other Pandits or the Brahmins in the Mandir, they wanted to go to Bhagat Namdev Ji and sit with them and listen to them. So looking at the crowd around Bhagat Namdev Ji, jere utthe de Brahman sige, Pandit sige of the Mandir, they were thinking like, "Eh, kaun hai jera aaya? Who is this person who has got so many people around him? And how is it that he's so famous? Is he a Pandit? Is he a Brahmin?" So these Pandits, they started asking questions, and then someone said that, "Oh, it's Bhagat Namdev Ji." They are really famous. They are from Pindarpur and they constantly do the Simran of Beetle, and they have Darshan of Paramatma constantly, and they do a lot of miracles as well. So Jere Pandit Sige, they went to Bhagat Namdev Ji, and now they're asking, they say, we heard that you're a Bhagat and your name is Namdev. Which caste are you from? And Bhagat Namdev Ji say, well, I was born as a Chiba, if that's what you think of as a caste. So Bhagat Namdev Ji, we must understand a Bhagat is beyond this caste system, beyond Jat-Paat, beyond richness or you know, we can say all this wealth, all this money, they're beyond all this. And so Bhagat Namdev Ji say, well, I was born in the house of a Chiba, so if that's what you consider a caste. And Jere Pandit Sige, they say that, oh, you're a low caste, you're a Sudra, and only Kshatri and Brahmin can come to this mandir and pray, so you need to go out from here. They feel Bhagat Namdev Ji can, like, how can you ask a Bhagat to leave the mandir, to leave the house of Bhagwan? No one has the right to do that. Only Bhagwan, only the owner of the house can kick someone out. So you can't do that. Only Paramatma can do that. If he wishes me to go out, I will. And so these Pandits, they got really angry. Their ego got hurt. So they picked all these Pandits, they got together, they picked Bhagat Namdev Ji and threw him out of the mandir and said that you can't come in. You're a Sudra, you're a low caste, you can't do bhakti here, go elsewhere and do. This is only the place for Brahmins and Kshatris, and you're not of these castes, so go out from here and don't make us angry. So all these other Bhagats, all these other devotees, Hana Jire, Sangat, ICA, they were looking at all this happening, and Amande Andari Sochi Jan that in the eyes of Bhagwan, who is greater? Is it these Pandits, is it these Brahmins, or is it Bhagat Namdev Ji? So they're looking at the whole scenario, but sare muh band karke khade sige, everybody was just looking. Bhagat Namdev Ji picked themselves up, dusted themselves, and they laughed it off. They just laughed about the whole situation, and this is where then they recited the Shabads that we constantly hear about. So then Bhagat Namdev Ji said in their Shabad, they say, Moko tu na bisar, tu na bisare Ramaya. So at that point, Bhagat Namdev Ji, they picked themselves up and then they thought about this. They say that these Pandits, these people, they have neglected me. They have pushed me away. They have thrown me out from this place, from your house. But why Guruji Paramatma, oh Bhagwan, oh Beetle, this is my benti that I hope, I pray that you don't kick me out from your house. You don't disown me just like how these people have. I don't care about these people. I only care about what you feel and what you think about me. So there's a conversation Bhagat Namdev Ji is having at that point, at that mandir, outside that mandir. And they say, Moko, tu na bisar, tu na bisar, tu na bisare Ramaya. They say 3 times that do not disown me, do not keep me away from you, keep me with you. And then so in this short Shabad, then they continue to say, towards the end, they say that Mue hue jo mukta dehoge mukta na jane koela. So now, Bhagat Namdev Ji, this is a kind of bhakti that we can see. You know, earlier in this sakhis and this Bhagat stories, I've spoken about the 9 types of bhakti. There's Kirtan, where you sing the praises of Paramatma. There is the Sravan Bhakti, where you listen to the praises of Paramatma. And there's one, Sakhapan, where you become a friend with Paramatma, with Vaheguru. And in that friendship, we know we have so many friends around us. So when we have that friendship, what would we do? We would laugh, we would, argue, we would cry together. Sometimes we even fight with each other. Sometimes we would say things to each other, and perhaps say things that it's not hurtful, but it makes our friend think about us. It makes our friend think about, what we are asking them to do, what we say to them, Hana? So then here, I imagine that Bhagat Namdev Ji is speaking to Paramatma as a friend and telling Paramatma that, hey, what are you doing, man? Like, I'm your Bhagat and I'm your lover. You are my lover. So look at my situation right now. And what are you going to do about it? And they say, Mue hue jo mukta dehoge mukta na jane koela. Now they're saying to Bhagwan, they're saying to Beetle, to Paramatma, that if you give me mukti after I die, Who is going to know your greatness that you can even give mukti, you can even liberate your pagats in this life? So muhe hue jo mukta dehoge, that if I die and then you give me mukti, mukta na jane koila, nobody is going to know your greatness, nobody is going to know that you as a Paramatma are able to give mukti to a low caste just like me in this life. So do it while I'm alive, not after I'm dead. And then towards the end they say, E pandiya moko ted kahat teri paj pichaundi hoila. This is a really beautiful pankti. And you see what kind of conversations we can even have with Paramatma. You know, some say that we come into that place, into that position in our lives sometimes where we try, or where we end up having this kind of conversation with Vaheguru, where we scold them, where we become a bit upset with them. But even that is Parvan as well, because we ourselves know what situation we are in and how we are having that conversation with Vaheguru. Other people might judge, but you don't have to tell people about it. So Bhagat Namdev Ji is saying here, E Pandiya moko ted kahte, that these pandits that are supposed to be doing your puja, you made them these Brahmins, they are calling me moko ted kahte, they are calling me a low caste, they are calling me a Shudra. But what's happening here is teri paj pichondi hoila. But hey Paramatma, look at this. You put me as a Shudra, you make me be born in the house of a Shiva, a low caste, and you make me your Bhagat. I am doing your Bhakti, but these people pushed me out, threw me out from your house, but it is not my honor that's being tarnished, it's your honor. Because you made me be born into this house of a low caste, you made me your Bhagat, you made me your lover, but then now whose honor is being tarnished? It's not mine, it's yours. So think about me, Paramatma. So now this is the kind of conversation Bhagat Namdev Ji is having with Vaheguru. And it's so beautiful because I personally believe that many of us have been in that situation where we have this kind of conversation with Vaheguru that, hey, why is this happening? Why are you allowing this to happen in my life? Are you even listening to me? Are you even looking at my life situation right now? We have this kind of conversations with Vaheguru. But we just need to know whether is it coming out from a place of hatred or from a place of love. So for this was that place of love from Bhagat Namdev Ji's heart. E Pandiya moko ted kahat. They are calling me low caste, they are calling me a Shudra. But I'm your Bhagat. Teri paj pichondi hoila. So it's your honor, Paramatma, that is being tarnished. Hey, look at this situation, do something about it. Bhagat Namdev Ji is saying. And then Bhagat Namdev Ji then recited another Pankti, another Shabad. So what happened is, at that point when they just dusted themselves off and recited this Shabad, then they went towards the back of the Mandir. So where it was the front entrance, the Pandits kicked them out. Bhagat Namdev Ji then walks towards the back of the Mandir where nobody is. You know, people don't come from the back for the Mandir, they always come from the front. So Bhagat Namdev Ji went to the back of the Mandir and they sat down. So they had kartale with them. Bhagat Namdev Ji had these kartale in their hands. So they recited this Shabad. They say, Haste khelte tere dehure aaya. That I came to your dehura. Haste khelte. I was happily, singing, doing your kirtan happily, coming to your mandir, coming to your door, to your dwar. And then Bhagta karta nama pakar uthalya. I came to do your bhakti, I came to do your kirtan, I came to do your sangat, to do your seva. And when I came to your dehura, when I came to your dwar, Bhagata karat, while I was doing bhakti, nama pakar uthala, these pandits picked me up and threw me out. Hinudi jat meri jadam raya, that oh, my jat is so low, is so niche. Chipe ke janam kahe ko aaya. And now Bhagat Namdev Ji is saying that why am I born as this chipa if this is a low caste, and all these Kaljug, this world are saying that I can't do bhakti in this low caste, then why am I born in this low caste if I can't do bhakti? Rahao. Le kambali chalyo paltai. So I took my kambal, so the kapra, a blanket we can say that covers their body. They just say le kambali, they took it and they went to the back of the dehura. Chalyo paltai, they went dehura pache baitha jai. They went to the back of the dehura, to the back of the mandir, and they sat down there and did their bhakti. And what happened? Jo Jo Nama har gud uchare. So Bhagat Namdev Ji saying, Jo Jo Nama, just as I sat down, as I doing my Simran, I started doing Simran of Beetle, 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 har gud uchare. And when I started doing Kirtan of Paramatma, Bhagat Jana ko dehora fere. What was happening? So Bhagat Namdev Ji was sitting, facing the Mandir, but the back of the Mandir, Hana, and they close their eyes and they're doing Kirtan. So as they're doing Hari Jas, as they're doing Simran of Paramatma, the Mandir is turning, just like imagine that underneath the whole Mandir is just these wheels that are turning the whole Mandir 180 degrees around to face Bhagat Namdev Ji. And all these Pandas, all these Brahmins in the Mandir, they are, they are shaken. Some are falling off their seats, some are just falling onto the floor, some are like, what's happening? Some are screaming, some are running out of the Mandir because they don't know what's happening. And the Mandir is just like it's on wheels, is turning to face Bhagat Namdev Ji. And these Pandits, some of these Pandits that were the Pujari in that Mandir, they were very Siane, they were good. Some of them didn't actually push Bhagat Namdev Ji out. So these Buzurg Pandits, they came and they realized that we have done something bad. We have actually made Bhagwan unhappy by dishonoring their Bhagat, which was Bhagat Namdev Ji. So these Buzurg Pandit, they went to Bhagat Namdev Ji and asked for maafi. They said, Bhagat Ji, open your eyes and see what miracle has taken place in front of us. Look at this. We have pushed you out of the Mandir, but Paramatma themselves have shown their back towards us and now are facing you. They have left everybody else, all these Brahmins, all these Pandas who is meant to do their puja. Now Paramatma has left all of them and come and face you. Open your eyes and see this. And Bhagat Namdev Ji opened their eyes and they look at the whole Mandir, that the front, the entrance of the Mandir, that Murti, Bhagwan. When you enter a Mandir, you can always see the Murti, the idol, right in the center. So the first thing you enter the Mandir is you see the Bhagwan, like either it be Ganesh or Ram and Sita, you will see it in the entrance. So now Bhagat Namdev Ji opens their eyes and they see the entrance and they look directly at Bhagwan, which is in the middle of the Dehura, in the middle of the Mandir, and they say, oh, now you have come to save my honor. Now you are facing me. So now I know who you love more. You love your Bhagat more. And they're having this conversation, Paramatma and Bhagat Namdev Ji and all these other Pandits are looking at what's happening and they're asking for maafi from Bhagat Namdev Ji. But by this time, Bhagat Namdev Ji, you see another quality of a Bhagat is that they don't have grudges in themselves. So they forgot completely about what these Pandits even did to them. And they were having this conversation with Bhagwan, and then these Pandits were asking for maafi, constantly asking for forgiveness. And then Bhagat Namdev Ji, they suddenly came into that moment, they suddenly heard these voices of the Pandits and they said, oh, they looked at them and said, don't worry about me. It's not even in my place to forgive you people because it's your karam. You had to do it. And because of what you had done, today everybody see that miracle. Everybody today can see the power, can see how great Paramatma is because they have chosen their Bhagat over everything else. They have chosen love of a Bhagat over everything else. So for a fact now, you can see with your own eyes what is it really Vaheguru wants. Not your idol worship, not your ritualistic behavior that you do daily, but it's love really. That's what Paramatma wants. And so these Pujari, these Pandits, their eyes open and they ask for forgiveness from Bhagat Namdev Ji. So this same Mandir where Bhagat Namdev Ji, this whole sakhi took place, it's about 1.5 hours from Hazur Sahib and many people go to see the place. And there's so many proofs that this Mandir actually turned 180 degrees to face Bhagat Namdev Ji. So I urge everyone, after this lockdown, after all this has happened, anyone going to Hazur Sahib next year or what should visit this Mandir and experience it for yourself. So after this whole yatra, Bhagat Namdev Ji, there were so many miracles. These are just main sakhiya, but along the way, many sakhiya, many incidents took place in Bhagat Namdev Ji's life. Majority of them were a lot of miracles that showed the greatness of Paramatma and how Paramatma will always choose their Bhagats over everything else. How Paramatma will always listen to their Bhagats, whatever they ask for, over everything else. And so Bhagat Namdev Ji, now they complete their yatra, they have finished their yatra and they have come back to the village of Pindarpur. And so Bhagat Namdev Ji, by this time, they have become a Bairagi. So a Bairagi is one who has renounced the world, renounced everything, doesn't care about the world, doesn't care about what's happening. You know, there's an earthquake happening or whatever is happening around them, they don't really care. All they care about is Bhakti, all they care about is Paramatma. So by this time in Pindarpur, Bhagat Namdev Ji, they always constantly go back to that Viral Bhagwan Mandir, that first Mandir where Bhagat Namdev Ji was born, with that kind of environment. So they constantly go back there because that was that Mandir where Bhagat Namdev Ji got the darshan of Paramatma for the first time. So whenever Bhagat Namdev Ji goes back to that Mandir, it always brings that same feeling, that same, you know, pyar and that thirst and that environment where Bhagat Namdev Ji would constantly have darshan of Paramatma. And they, even while going for yatra, you can read in the Sakya where Bhagat Namdev Ji, they constantly think about this place, they constantly think about the Mandir where they had darshan of Paramatma for the first place, and they, even though they have darshan of Paramatma everywhere, but they want to go back to that Mandir. And so they spend more time in the Mandir in Pindarpur doing their bhakti. So one day what happened was that someone came running to the Mandir and they were saying, Bhagat Ji, quickly come, your house is on fire. And Bhagat Namdev Ji, a Bairagi, they didn't really care about what was happening. So ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਭਗਤੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਪਰਵਾਹ। ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਚੇਲੇ ਸੀਗੇ, those the villagers, they came, Bhagat Namdev Ji, ਉੱਠੋ, open your eyes, you need to come home. Your house is on fire and you know all this, your wife is upset, she's crying, your parents, your family is upset, they're crying, so you need to come home. And Bhagat Namdev Ji, they open their eyes and they say, well, this is the karta doing of Ram, this is what Ram is doing, so let Ram do its work, let Paramatma do its work, why are we going to stop anything, Hana? Kande vi, whatever is being done is by Paramatma, we are no one to stop their action, we are no one to stop whatever they're doing, it's all in hukam, so let it happen, don't worry about it, So then the villagers, they couldn't understand, for them, imagine now we are in a situation where our house is on fire or something happened, our car gets stolen. We, at that present moment, we wouldn't be able to think about anything else. All we think about is trying to save our car or save our house or our property. So the villagers were in that situation and they kept saying to Bhagat Namdev Ji, no, you have to come right now. You need to save whatever is left of your house. And so Bhagat Namdev Ji, bala matlab khechal karde sige, and so they couldn't do bhakti, so they just said, chalo chaliye, let's just go and see what's happening then. Bhagat Namdev Ji, sahaje, holy, they walked towards their house and they saw that their house was on fire, they saw their wife was crying, some of the villagers are throwing buckets of pani into the fire, and some are trying to save whatever is left, a chair, a table, kapde, food, they're trying to save whatever they could. And Bhagat Namdev Ji is looking at all of this, and then they saw that these people were saving the furnitures of the house. So Bhagat Namdev Ji, Sahaj Subha de vich, they went and just picked up all these things and threw it back into the fire. And they are having a conversation with the fire. So at this point, Bhagat Namdev Ji, they have darshan of Paramatma in the form of fire. So if we read the Sakhi, if we read Bhagat Namdev Ji's life story, Bhagat Namdev Ji had darshan of Paramatma many times in many different forms. They've come into a murti, they've come in the form of fire, they've come in the form of a pandit, and as a form of a beggar. So all these different forms, Paramatma took and gave darshan to Bhagat Namdev Ji. So today, while their house is on fire, Paramatma actually gave darshan to Bhagat Namdev Ji in the form of the fire, and Bhagat Namdev Ji is having conversation. They are saying that, oh Ramji, Paramatma, Vaheguru, Bital Ji, you have come to my house. Thank you for coming to my house. But now that you are in a form of fire and your karam, your hukam is you burn things, that you release this heat and you burn things. So take this furniture as well, take this food, take this table, these chairs, this cloth, whatever makes you happy. And these other villagers, like, what is Bhagat Namdev doing? Hana? We are trying to save whatever is left and they are throwing everything back into the fire. And Bhagat Namdev is happily having this conversation that, oh Bhagwan, you're in my house, you're giving me darshan in this form of fire. And Bhagwan is saying that you can see me in this form. Then Bhagat Namdev can say, why not? Because you are in all this creation that I see around me. Hana, when we say that Paramatma is in everything in this world, Bhagat Namdev reached that avastha where they could see Paramatma in everything. And wherever they looked, they were having conversation with the grass, they were having conversation with the dog, they were having conversation with the fire. And this Bhakta ki chal nirali hai na, so the path of Bhakti is different from the path of this world. So Bhagat Namdev were having conversation with fire, with Paramatma, and they threw everything into the fire and everybody was looking. So they were having this conversation and Bhagwan was saying, you can recognize me as well. While they're having a conversation, then Bhagwan also came into that Shan Swarup, and then the fire completely stopped, and Bhagat Namdev's house was completely burnt already. So everybody went back, and that night Bhagat Namdev and the whole family, they had to sleep under a tree. But Bhagat Namdev was undisturbed. They didn't really care about it. Even that was shelter given by Paramatma. And so what happened was that same night, that Bhagat Namdev is thinking that, well, it doesn't really matter for me where I sleep, but what about my children? What about my wife? Hana, and nanu kuch ta chahida, they need some shelter as well. And that's why Bhagat Namdev they become so compassionate. Even though Bhagat becomes Bairagi, but they become Bairagi for themselves, but they still have so much compassion, so much pyar for all these other people they see around them, that even though they are in trouble, they don't want other people to be in trouble because of them. So Bhagat Namdev then do this ardas, this benti, that, oh Paramatma, Vaheguru, like, please in some way could you give us a shelter? If not for me, but for my family. And I have faith that you would provide for us because you provide for everybody else. And so what happened was that the next day, Bhagat Namdev's mother, they gave them some money to go into town to get some wood, to get some workers to come and build the house for them. And Bhagat Namdev then went to town with the money they had, and they wanted to get some workers, buy some wood, maybe make a small hut, at least some kind of shelter for the family. But when they went into town, they saw this group of sadhus, this group of saints who were hungry. And this is the same sakhi like how Guru Nanak Dev Ji was sent to do a business deal, but they saw this group of sadhus hungry. And so the same thing with Bhagat Namdev Ji, they couldn't see the Bhagats of Paramatma hungry. They became so compassionate, so they spent all that money to feed these sadhus, to buy ration, to buy groceries, cook for them food and feed them. And so now Bhagat Namdev Ji is thinking, they say, after all this is done, after feeding the saints and getting blessings from them, doing sangat, then now Bhagat Namdev Ji is thinking, they say, how am I going to make this house? How am I going to give a shelter to my family? And by this time now Bhagat Namdev Ji is doing ardas again to Paramatma, and they say, look Paramatma, you gave me a chance, but I couldn't help it. I could see you in these sadhus, and you were hungry. So I had to feed you something. I had to give you food. But please Paramatma, please Vaheguru, now protect my honor, protect my family, and listen to my ardas. So Bhagat Namdev Ji, they couldn't go home because they were a bit, they said that I don't want to worry about what my family is going to say when I go home, that, paise barbad karte, that how can we stay, under this tree and all that. So they went to do bhakti in the Mandir. But while they were doing bhakti, Paramatma couldn't see that their Bhagats were in trouble. So Paramatma then took Darshan, they took the form of a carpenter, and they went towards where the old house of Bhagat Namdev Ji was burned, and went to the family, went to their mother and said that Mataji, Bhagat Namdev Ji has sent me with all this wood and these workers, and I'm going to make the house for you. And so, within a day, Paramatma Vaheguru, in the form of a carpenter, built such a beautiful house for Bhagat Namdev Ji and the family, and everybody was shocked because the house was even better than the one that Bhagat Namdev Ji had, and Paramatma did it on their own, just as one carpenter, one worker, with all these woods and all these tasks. They finished it in one day. And by that time now, Bhagat Namdev Ji, it's already evening, and they had to go home because then their family is going to worry about them. They go home and they get shocked, they get surprised to see that in the place of their old house that was burned is now such a beautiful house. And their mom comes out, their mother comes out and say, Bhagat Namdev, it's good that you went to town and you made a good deal, because this person came with so much wood and all the tools and everything and finished it on his own. He built this whole house within a day on his own. And Bhagat Namdev Ji then say that, oh mother, it was not just any carpenter, it was actually Paramatma themselves. You all had darshan of Paramatma themselves who came to make this house for us. And so what happened was that these villagers, their neighbors, so one of the neighbor of Bhagat Namdev Ji was a lady, was a woman, and she saw that how beautiful Bhagat Namdev Ji's house was. She came out, she couldn't help it, she came out and she saw Bhagat Namdev Ji and she asked. So this is also the sakhi, the experience that Bhagat Namdev Ji tells in their Bani. They say, and what do they say? They say, Paad Padosan Pooch Le Nama Ka Pehchan Chawai Ho. So Bhagat Namdev Ji, they say in their Bani that Paad Padosan, that my neighbor, the woman next door, asked Namdev, Ka Pehchan Chawai Ho, who built your house? Who made this amazing house? It is much better than your old one, and it's much beautiful than any other houses in this village. तो पह दुगनी मजूरी देहो मोको बेड़ी देहो बताई हो. So the woman is saying that dugri majuri, I will give him double the wage that you gave. Moko bedi deho batai ho. Tell me, who is this carpenter who made such a beautiful house? I will pay him double. Then Bhagat Namdev is saying, Ri bai bedi den na jai, dekh bedi rahyo samai. Then now Bhagat Namdev is saying that Ri bai, oh sister, I cannot give this carpenter to you. It's not one that I'll just give you the contact and you can, do a business deal. Dekh bedi rahyo samai, that my carpenter is not just one person, but it's everywhere. It's not just that one worker who made my house, but my carpenter is everywhere. It's in these leaves, in this grass, in this wood, in this particle, in this pani, is everywhere. Can you see that carpenter? And then after that, Bhagat Namdev Ji, in the same Shabad, they continue. They say that this bedi, this carpenter that you are willing to pay double the amount of money, you know what this carpenter really wants? They say bedi preet majuri mange. That the majuri, that the wages that this carpenter is asking for is preet, is love. Are you willing to give that love? Are you able? Do you have love in you to pay this carpenter to build your house? Jo ko chan chawave ho. So if you have love in you and you're able to pay this carpenter, you're able to give Paramatma your love, then that Paramatma, that carpenter, is willing to build your house for you, is willing to come and build their house in your heart. But you must have that love for Paramatma to come in the first place. And then what was that condition to have this carpenter come to you? Is log kutamba sabhu te tore. You have to break away from all these false relations with the world. So become a bairagi, where you detach yourself from this world, but it doesn't mean you don't care about them. You are compassionate about them, but you know that all this you see around you is illusion, is not permanent, it's just temporary. So you don't become attached with them. So apan bedi aave ho, and then once you have reached that avastha, that stage where you detach from this world, you renounce everything, and all you have in you is love for Paramatma, only then this carpenter, this Paramatma in the form of carpenter that came to my house will then come to your house as well. So that was that deal. That was the deal breaker. That was the thing that would make Paramatma come to you. All you need to pay him is love. Not physical money, not with this Maya, but love. So do you have that love in you? So that this carpenter would come and make his house in your heart. And you have to pay him with love. So basically, Bhagat Namdev is saying that this is a game of love with Paramatma, and you have that amount of love. You know, when we play game, we need to put something on the table to win the game. So what are we going to put at stake? What are we willing to let go to then win the game of love? So that's something that we need to think about as well. Bhagat Namdev Ji, they gave up everything. They gave up even this worry of their family. They gave up about what the world would say about them, how they're going to eat food. They gave up everything. But all they had in them was love for Paramatma. And that love made them become so known in this whole world, even until now. And Paramatma themselves couldn't say no to Bhagat Namdev Ji for whatever they asked Paramatma to do. So if we read the Sakhi of Bhagat Namdev Ji, there was so many miracles that took place in the life of Bhagat Ji. And it said that Bhagat Namdev Ji had darshan of Paramatma 72 times in various forms. Many, many different forms. Like I say, in the form of fire, in the form of a carpenter, in the form of a pandit, a dog, many, many different forms. So again, Bhagat Namdev Ji is telling us that nothing is impossible. As long as you put your mind to it and you have love for Paramatma, even Paramatma themselves cannot say no to you. They couldn't resist you as well. So this was how then Bhagat Namdev Ji spent their whole life in bhakti, their whole life in doing prachar about love, about being detached from this world, not, being attached to your jat, path, because Vaheguru doesn't look at all this. Vaheguru looks at the love that we have for them, right? So towards the end, Bhagat Namdev Ji, they did another yatra, and then they also went to this spender called Gurdaspur, now which is Gurdaspur, was founded by Bhagat Namdev Ji, and they stayed there for about 20 years. So Bhagat Namdev Ji were about 80 years old when they left this world in Pandarpur. Some say that they left this world in Gurdaspur, but many would believe that they actually left this world. They, breathed out their last breath in Pandarpur. So a lot of people, even until now, like I mentioned yesterday as well, there are a lot of people who actually still do what we can say is bhajan. What we can say is they still sing the Shabads, they still sing the Bani of Bhagat Namdev Ji. Many people in Maharashtra, these Marathis especially, they still believe in Bhagat Namdev Ji, and also in Janabai. So Janabai was that maid servant who actually brought up Bhagat Namdev Ji and then kept on reciting the name Beetle into the ears of Bhagat Namdev Ji. And Bhagat Namdev Ji then grew up to become a Bhagat with her blessings as well. So I think today's two Sakhya were really powerful because, and there's two Sakhya that Bhagat Namdev Ji themselves speak about in their Shabad. They tell us that how amazing our love for Paramatma can actually lead Paramatma themselves to come to us. So how Paramatma Vaheguru themselves get so attached to their Bhagat because of love. And how Paramatma would do anything that the Bhagat asks for them. So hence then we have all these little miracles or experiences, we call them. And many of us would have experienced these as well, where we think about something or we do a small binti, and then the next thing we know that it happens, And for me, it's just like a miracle as well, because then it shows to me, it's like a proof to me that my Paramatma, Vaheguru, is listening to my ardas and they have their eyes on me. So, I have to up my game and not, make a fool of myself in front of my Vaheguru. Make sure that if they are looking at me, they are proud of me as well. They are happy with me as well. So that's all for Bhagat Namdev Ji Sakhya. And there are many, many more Sakhya that I didn't tell about, but because there's a lot. And if you have any Sakhya Bhagat Namdev Ji they really, you really love, why don't you share these Sakhya, and you can tag us on social media. So thank you so much for listening today. Please forgive me for any mistakes I've done. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.